Hey everybody, it's me, Comic Crack. I was watching, I did some videos last night, and for some reason, like, I had this whole live thing going on, and people were chatting, and Spiro came on, if you saw all that stuff. For some reason, the first part, there was a whole chunk that it was kind of like these jump cuts or something. It was very strange, cut out a lot of what I was saying, and then I noticed, watching it back, that it completely didn't save any of the conversation I was having about books that I bought this week. So I'm trying a different one. I usually like to do these kind of things live because I like to kind of interact. If there's, even if it's just one person around, if there's any comments or something, I kind of like doing that sort of thing. But I don't want to take a chance this time. I just wanted to talk about what I got because I'm kind of excited to be back around and, watching videos and reading books again. So, without any more hesitation, let's just jump right into what I got. I've read most of them, so I'll just kind of give you an idea of what it was and how I liked it and stuff. But we'll start off. There's a couple that I haven't read, so we'll just start off with one of those. This is number 13 of FF. This one, there's a whole bunch of books that I read with my son, but like Fantastic Four, FF, Avengers, New Avengers, and we're also reading Infinity together, the Indestructible Hulk book as well. So this one we're about, I don't know, I think we're at least 3 issues behind. I think the last one we read might have been like number 9 or 10, I'm not sure. So I can't talk too much about these because I don't read these on my own. I wait and I save them for us to read together. And I see there was talk about it before too, that Matt Fraction's name was still on it. But it's the All Red clan that's kind of taken over the book. What I had heard originally was that Fraction kind of gave them the outline as far as where he was thinking the story arc would go, and they've just taken up the individual writing of the issues, so they have kind of his original idea, and they're just kind of taking the reins and finishing off however long it's going to go, however many more issues his story is going to go. So that's that one. The next couple here are ones that when I watched the Damien Travis Sleepy Reader Oddfellows Thoughts meetup, they were talking about some books, and there was a couple that they talked about that I went specifically to buy. It's the whole Hellboy universe and things is something that I've wanted to get into for a long, long time, and they were talking about this issue of Baltimore. 2 of 3, I think. Yeah, 2 of 3. But in the overall series, number 17 in the series. And they both seem to say that it was a fine place to jump on, especially with this kind of story, because you don't need to know too much about the overall arc or what's happened before. It's still, because each miniseries is kind of a contained story, it's okay to kind of jump on wherever. I dug it. I thought it was pretty cool. I have no experience with this title at all. I have very, very, very little experience with the whole universe in general. But I liked it. I kind of liked the way the dialogue went. I kind of liked the way the story was. I definitely felt, I think Damien was saying that he kind of like to know and try to hunt down the rest of the issues. I notice in the back he's talking in 2 weeks. They said that there's going to be a $1 reprint of the very first issue. So that'll be really cool to pick up. And I think I've said it before yesterday. We have a comic convention coming up in November. So it's definitely going to be on my list if I see a bunch of these for cheap last year when I went, I got a whole stack of books for pretty cheap, like 50% off kind of thing. I'll definitely be picking up more of these. In case I might end up repeating myself, if you were here for the show yesterday or whatever, I might just end up repeating some of the things, and forgive me if I repeat stuff that's in the other videos too. I can't quite remember what was said when, and that sort of thing. I don't think I'd got to this book though. But yeah, pretty cool. I was impressed with it overall. I enjoyed it. And then the other one they were talking about was this Letter 44, and this was it was a $1 issue, right? Yeah, so #1 for $1, which is a pretty good deal. If you saw their little video there, basically they tell you the story. There's not much of a surprise, which is fine. The thing that was a surprise to me was how much I found the art distracting, because I just plain and simply I didn't like it. It became something that I started focusing on more. And one of the things that bugged me was kind of the head shape and the size and the style, and it kind of didn't match the bodies in my eyes, not in a good way, because I'm completely fine with like very strange styles or whatever, but it just, I don't know, it just didn't work for me. It was kind of like this, I don't even know how to describe it. Yeah, I don't really know how to describe it other than it just didn't work for me, and it didn't work so much that I was distracted by it. At least if it was like some other, kind of art styles where it may be more kind of digitally created and things, even some of those I can let those slide and I can still get into the story and stuff. But this, I found more often than not, I was at the end of a page or in the middle of a page, I was just looking at and really looking and going, oh, I really don't like that panel, or oh, that guy looks so strange, and that sort of thing. It took me out of the story a little bit. The story itself is a pretty cool idea, and I will pick up like maybe the next one just to give it one more chance, like try the second issue. But I'm not blown away by it. Yeah, the premise was better than kind of the payoff, I guess, for me, so that was that one. I'm maybe the last person that's reading Satellite Sam. This is #4. I like it. I just started reading this. I just got into the first couple of pages before we had to kind of carry on with our day, so I can't tell you too much about this particular issue. But I like the time period that it's set. I like the kind of, television industry that it's set, and I kind of like it's almost like a David Lynchian kind of feel of like, hey, here's this time period and this group of people that maybe have some preconceived glamorous ideals set with them, and then they're going to go underneath that surface and find out that they're all a bunch of perverts, and there's some weird shit going on, and there's some backstabbing and all that kind of stuff. By no means is it an original title or anything. By no means I'm saying that. I find it enjoyable. I'm curious as to where it's going to go. Curious what he has to say using this kind of group of people in this kind of setting. And I really like, I was talking to Spiro last night, and I don't know Chaykin very, very well, but he was saying, he had mentioned that he's my kind of pervert, so he's definitely somebody I'll have to look into a little bit more. Oh, and here we go. This is the one he was talking about, this Black Kiss, apparently. And then here's the book that I was talking about last night, Century West. I saw this on the shelf, and flipping through it, it didn't look like anything. I don't know, it didn't draw me in. I wasn't so crazy about it. But maybe I'll try out this Black Kiss. Either way, the interiors of this one I find appealing. I enjoy it. So, yeah, totally understand people dropping it and everything, but I don't know, I'm kind of getting a kick out of it. I know I talked about this last night, but just wanted to just mention it again, that it's just an interesting, I just want to mention it again because I find it a really interesting premise. I didn't do any, I might have said this, I don't normally do any previews magazines. I normally don't do much research into upcoming titles. I normally don't do a lot of reading, even if when it's creators that I enjoy. I normally don't go out of my way to read what the book is about. I like, for the most part, I like approaching a new title just with a blank look on it, no expectations and no kind of ideas. And this one really paid off in that way because I really had no idea. And the first issue was such a nice surprise. I really, really enjoyed it more than I thought that I would. Both the covers have been really striking. But just the whole premise, like I said before, it's that idea of this kind of discovering sexuality from a female's point of view by a male writer. And I kind of linked it before to me growing up reading Judy Blume books, and it was her tackling kind of this sexuality with these young boys discovering their own sexuality, or their, coming into that kind of adolescence or whatever. So I like the flip on that side, and then to kind of tie it into this whole other world where now they're going to make like a heist book out of it and stuff, I find kind of interesting. So I'm digging it. I'm definitely on for the long haul with this one for sure. So, and this is one of those books, like, I'm by no means am I blown away by the art. I don't particularly like it. Like, if I sat and looked through this book and really focused on the art, I could really pick it apart. It really doesn't appeal to me, but it doesn't draw me out of the book by any means. I'm able to go through this and read the story and not be distracted by it, even though if I sit and stand back and look at it, I can really see that I'm not crazy about it. So that's an interesting thing that I just kind of thought about right now. The big one that is kind of, I don't know if it's on everybody's lips, but everybody seems to be talking about Daredevil, which is ending, I think, issue 36. Is that what I heard? Issue 36. I just read a comment that it didn't feel, to somebody was saying that it didn't feel to them that it was going to end kind of naturally, and they were hoping that this was something that the creators had chosen and they have an ending. I said it before, and I've said it a million times before. I completely, at this point especially, I completely trust Mark Waid. I have no doubt that he's got something to tie it up. And that said, this was, in the whole 32 issues, this was for me the weakest issue. There was some good points in the middle, but it started out kind of weak and ended a little weak as well. But on any other book, that would bother me, especially at this point in like the series. But with this one, it just doesn't bother me because it's literally been the only book in 32 issues that I felt like that, because every single other book, I'm completely with him on it. I love the book. I love his writing. I love Sam Nee's art. I love all of it. Yeah, I mean, this team could go for like 200 issues and I would be there every step of the way. So it's definitely going to follow them to whatever they do. And then I heard also today that maybe it was going to start from number 1 again. I haven't looked into that. I had thought that this was just ending their run and they were going to continue on with the numbering. If they do decide to go to number 1, they go to number 1. It's kind of a pain in the ass. The only thing that I find a pain in the ass about that type of thing is, especially for a reader like me who, I mean, I've been reading comics for a long time, but some of these characters like Daredevil, like Captain America, that I might have a little bit of interest in, when it comes time for digging down back issues and story arcs, it makes it so much more difficult. Like when I was looking for this Punisher Frankencastle stuff, I had to go to Punisher Volume 7 to look through some of the books, and then some of those books were also mixed in with in some of the comic shops, they have like the Punisher, and then they'll have Punisher Miscellaneous. Some of the books were mixed in with that. So some people don't know how to even file them, never mind when I'm trying to go back in time and hunt down particular issues. If I don't know the title, with Frankencastle it was a little easier because I could type in Frankencastle and that really pinpointed what volume it came from. If I'm going to the back issues, it makes it tough if there's no if it's just Volume 1 was called Daredevil, Volume 2 was called Daredevil, Volume 7 was called Daredevil. It makes it really hard, especially if I'm not familiar with the creators and things and I don't know how to search. And with so many choices out there and so many things I'm reading, if I don't absolutely love the character like I do Daredevil, I might be more willing to give up because it's like, well, I can go and hunt down this one particular book, or there's these other 18 titles that I'm interested in that are a little easier to dig up, so I don't know if it hurts them in the long run or benefits them. I mean, I suppose at the end of the day, it's all about attracting new readers, which they want to do by a number one is easy for everybody to jump onto. You don't have to worry, whatever. I don't necessarily buy that for myself, but whatever. I can totally see how they would think that would be the way to go. Talk a little bit about this one, another one that I haven't read yet, and this was from, I think this came out a week or two ago, Multiple Warheads. Again, Spiro and I talked about it, and I still haven't had a chance to read it. It's the last one that I'm going to read. I specifically put it at the bottom, not because it's my least favorite, but because I really want to just sit with it and not have to worry about thinking that there's other comics I got to get to. So I'm waiting. This will be tomorrow. I'm pretty excited about it. Just flipping through it seems just incredible. I mean, I really like Brandon Graham. I've got no problem with dirty pornographic comics, so I'm kind of excited to dig into this one. The first issue of Velvet from Brubaker and Steve Epting, right? Is that his first name? I knew about it. This was one of those rare occasions where, I mean, it's Ed Brubaker, so I'm on board no matter what. They had a couple of sample pages in the back of Fatale. I'm assuming that's what the book was, since it's his as well. And even at that point, I was sold. I mean, I'm already sold because it's him, but reading those couple of pages, I thought it was a really cool idea and thought it would make for a really neat book. And it didn't disappoint. I really, really enjoyed it. I love the introduction of the characters and the world and everything. And, from one setup to another setup, like, you can just tell that it's going to be a pretty involved story. I'm hoping anyway. The only complaint that I had was I wasn't crazy about Epting's art. I found the characters pretty static. Like, I didn't get a sense of movement from them. It's interesting because when I first started reading Criminal, I wasn't blown away by Sean Phillips' art for some of the similar reasons, but his was also because I wasn't a fan of like the pseudo-realism that he was bringing to it. But now I read Criminal and Fatale and stuff, and I can't imagine any other artist doing it. So I'm wondering if maybe now because I'm so used to Phillips, that Epting is kind of in lines of realism. It's similar, but there's definitely a different style to him. So I'm wondering if maybe that's what it is. But part of it also is when I see panels where characters' mouths aren't open, where they're closed all the time, but they're speaking to another person. I don't know, that just kind of bugged me. I noticed it a few times. Again, it didn't completely draw me out of the story, but I definitely noticed it. And when there were scenes of people moving, I don't know if it was just the choice of poses that he was choosing to use, but it just seemed like they were just standing in a hallway or standing in a room. It's not like they were walking down a hallway or moving into a room. It was just kind of these weird statuesque type of poses, which of course completely changed by the end. But even at the end, when she when an escape is made, that action itself didn't I mean, it's still, like, there was a bit of movement to it for sure, but even her position in air and stuff just seemed really static. I didn't feel like she launched herself or moved to that particular point. I'm dancing around it because I don't want to completely spoil it. I don't know if it's a spoiler or not, but whatever. It still didn't feel like the actual movement was happening. It still felt a bit static. Mind you, less so than the rest of the book, but we'll see. Either way, I'm going to be buying it regardless. It's one of those that it could be pencil, crayon, stickmen. Well, maybe not that far, but pretty much I'm here for Brubaker. I'm not here for the art. I'm here for him. I really love his storytelling. I really love the way he puts a tale together and how he plays with genres and stuff. I love that kind of shit. So this one is a definite if you haven't picked it up. And then another one to talk about art. I'm going to open it up. So when I went into Galaxy, which is the place that I get all my books from, on the counter, he'd thrown he'd thrown the Brubaker book into my subscription box there because he just knew, and those guys do that quite a bit for everybody. But even standing at the till, there was another they had a little display with another image, number 1, and it was pretty deadly. And I remember seeing the ads for it in the back of a couple of books, but it was another one I didn't look into. I'm not really familiar with the names. Kelly Sue DeConnick, and then Emma Rios. I know the names, but I don't know where I know them from or what I've read or seen. So I had a quick browse through it, and it definitely caught my attention, so I decided to try it out, and I'm super glad that I did. I loved this issue. I really, really, really loved it. The story was very cool, almost like fairy tale-ish and folklore-ish, playing with like spaghetti westerns, and then the fucking artwork, man, just completely blew me away. I was so impressed with the style and the detail and just the way the pages look so full, They look really dense and really full, but by no means is it difficult to read. I found it super easy to read because I just got sucked right in. I love that panel right there. I don't even really want to tell you too much about it. Just go and get it. It's really worth picking up, and it's another one that I told him. I sent them an email because I'm not going to be able to make it there next week. So there's this Halloween event going on where they're getting in some books. I guess they're giving away for free. He said, if you can't make it in, just send me an email with a list of things that you want, and I'll make sure to put them aside for you. So in that email, I told him the same thing, like, this can go onto my subscription list because I want to make sure that I don't miss out on any of these if I can't get to the comic shop. The one thing that I will say, and I'm curious to see if it's happened with everybody's issue, or like if it was a printing error across the board, or if it was just a few or whatever. I don't know if it's going to come out. So if you look, where am I? Right there. You can see there's a line all the way down, and then even on the word bang, it looks like it's been split. It just looks like there's been like a misprinting, or some of the colors bled strangely. It happens one more time too that was really noticeable. You can see, so you have the top panel there, and you can see into the second panel, just past the black border, there looks like a line where the color has changed, and I don't know how good you can see it, but even in the hairline you can see a couple of layers of gradation, and then the rest of the page kind of has this haze over top of it or whatever, so I'm assuming that's a printing error. It doesn't seem to be like a style choice, but I mean, I could completely be wrong about that. if it is, I think it's a very strange one. I'm curious to see if everybody else had that in their issue as well. So, needless to say, though, pretty deadly, pretty fucking great. Definitely check it out. And then for the last one to talk about, I picked up Samurai Jack. So there's one of the variant covers, and then the kind of newsstand cover or whatever. There's also a third cover that they had on the rack from Genndy Tartakovsky, the guy who created Samurai Jack. And I kind of wish I would have picked that one up too. That was just a regular priced one. If it's there next time I go in, I'll probably pick it up. It's one of those. It's one of these cartoons and books that I'm super excited about. My brother and I are big kind of cartoon fanatics. So we had watched the show, and since then it's all come out on DVD. So I bought all the DVDs, and then with my son, we sat and we watched the whole series together as well. And my son is really into martial arts. He's in Taekwondo right now. So he responded to the show on that level, as well as it just being a fantastic cartoon. The greatest thing about all the DVD sets is there's a whole bunch of kind of backstory, there's a whole bunch of extra features where they talk about like the creative team and how the character came to be, and a lot of the artists that came onto the show to help him with it had come from John Kay's Ren and Stimpy show and kind of the Spumco animation studio or whatever. And the thing that's so good about that is John Kay is I don't know if anybody follows him at all, or he's got a blog and he's got kind of like an animation school online, sort of, where he talks about like old animation and why characters work, and just how to draw a character and kind of triangulating within a frame and stuff, and how to position a body. So he's a real, and he just loves all these old cartoonists. He's very knowledgeable about his animation history. So he really pushed the guys that worked at Spumco, especially on Ren and Stimpy. One of the things that he said in some of the commentary tracks on those Ren and Stimpy DVDs was that he had talked to people about, I don't want to see an expression that I've seen before. I want you to show me an expression I've never seen before. So he was always pushing them and constantly, apparently, like, just cutting down their work when it would come in, like, basically saying this is shit, start again, and having them redo a lot of stuff because he really had this kind of high expectations of what his cartoonists were going to do for him. So because of that and because of that experience, a lot of these guys, their game really stepped up, especially for like background painting. In Ren and Stimpy they had a lot of kind of painted stills as well too. So some of those people came over to work for Genndy Tartakovsky on Samurai Jack, and while it's a completely different show, it's not really a comedy. It has its funny episodes and it has its funny moments. It's more kind of a serious, kind of a Ronin, wandering samurai kind of tale. Spaghetti western / samurai. The skill that they brought to them you can see in the cartoon itself, with the backgrounds, with the kind of character designs, and his thing was, for Samurai Jack, he didn't want to use a black outline at all for any of the characters. He wanted it, you can even see they kind of do it on this cover too, just the way that Jack is outlined there. He's not outlined in black, and they do that throughout the cartoon as well, and that took a whole other level of like, oh shit, how are we going to do that? It really affects the colors that you choose for the backgrounds and the foreground, because you still want the character to stand out against the background, but you don't have that kind of foolproof, hey, I'll just draw a thick black line around him and that'll make him stand out, then it won't matter. So it really, again, it just steps up people's game again. So great, fantastic cartoon, fantastic storytelling, really so many good episodes in there. He won a bunch of awards for it. He then went on to do Star Wars Clone Wars cartoon, which I didn't like. I wasn't crazy about it. He also did Powerpuff Girls. Did he do Dexter's Laboratory too? I think that was his creation. So the thing with Samurai Jack was I can't remember if it was because it got canceled or what the deal was. It didn't tie up. The whole series didn't kind of have an ending when it really should have, and I think he was moving towards an ending. There's been talk for years and years and years about a Samurai Jack animated movie. There was some fake trailers floating around a couple of years ago, that sort of thing. So I was so excited to see, I think it was Fat Stack Comics, they showed off this first issue. I was super excited to see it. It's a 5-issue miniseries, which I'll be picking up every single issue. I'm hoping that this means that this is kind of a precursor to maybe there is a movie that's coming soon. I haven't done any research yet. Sorry, just give me, it's looking like, just want to get rid of this box here. It's saying the computer wants to restart for an update. Just making sure it doesn't shut out on me. I'm hoping that this comic marks a return of that whole idea, because I would love to see a final. I'd love to see a final movie, just to tie the whole thing up. I'll give you a little. So, created by Evgeny Tartakovsky, but this is written by a guy named Jim Zub, with art by a guy named Andy Siriano. Now, I don't recognize the names off the top of my head. I'd be curious to look back in some of the Samurai Jack cartoons to see if they were associated with the cartoon and kind of went to the book. Either way, just give you a taste of the inside. So first page is kind of laid out how the cartoon always started with a bit of history, and then we go to Cartoon Network, IDW Publishing proudly presents, and then they totally pull off a bit of an Eisner, which I loved, with a kind of wind sandstorm swept title of the issue and a nice kind of full page shot of him. I'm totally fucking nerding out about this anyway because I'm such a fan, but the artwork in this is pretty great. It's similar to the cartoon, but it's still got enough of his own style to make it his own thing, and I love that. He still keeps some of the great character designs. The colors in this are pretty mind-blowing as well. I will say the only thing that bothered me about it was when it got into the actual kind of fight scene. I didn't think it worked as well. Just kind of a look at those pages there. So the other thing about Samurai Jack was that some of the people on the creative team, and as far as storyboard artists and writers and things, some of them were heavily into martial arts. So they took a lot of stills and they did a lot of research on specific moves, specific martial arts moves in fighting and things that they mimicked for the cartoon because they wanted it to be as kind of realistic as possible. So all the moves that you see in the cartoon are actual kind of martial arts moves. I don't think it translates as well. I don't see much of it happening in this fight scene. I mean, there is some kind of shots of him kind of jumping and flipping and cutting these guys in half and stuff. They're all robots in this world. Most of the people that he ends up fighting are robots because he wanted to show a lot of violence and he didn't want it to be human beings. So he decided to make it this futuristic world where it's all robots. So he could cut robots in half. He could have oil spewing out of them, mimicking blood and things, but it would still be rated G enough that he could get it on Cartoon Network and he wouldn't have a problem with it and traumatize children and things. So I find it doesn't work in this because it's just these, again, it's this idea of like these still panels and are you creating movement? There's more movement in this, but I find the kind of artwork got a little sloppier. Maybe they were trying that to help with kind of the action and the movement. But I also felt like some of his actual poses and positions weren't necessarily done with as much kind of research behind them. They just seemed kind of average poses and stuff, and this kind of thing, holding onto swords and that sort of stuff. But honestly, that is such, in the grand scheme of things, that's such a small complaint for me, because I'm just so goddamn excited that it's back. I'm excited to see what the story is going to be. It's always the story. The basic story is he always wants to get back to his own time. He's here because he wants to destroy Aku, because Aku has changed. Aku is evil, has spread across the world basically, and killed his family and all this sort of thing. So he wants revenge, and he wants to rid the world of this evil that is Aku. And he's always trying to get back to his own time. So that's the premise on this one. He's found yet another way. Someone's given him a tip on another way that he can get back to his own time. So he's on a quest now to try to do that. It's fantastic. I could talk about it for days and days on end. So if you don't know it, pick it up. Because I want it to continue. So for purely selfish reasons, buy the comics so they keep doing it. I think it's only a 5-issue mini. It's 4 or 5, but I'm pretty sure it's 5 issues, which is a bit odd to me as well. Don't go crazy buying all the variant covers. I'm going to do that for you. But I'd say give it a chance, and if you haven't seen the cartoon and you're a fan of cartoons in general, really, really look for those shows. Just a lot of fun. I just get really, really worked up and excited about it. So that's about it, I think. Everything else I talked about. So thank you very much. Let's hope that this video works. And thanks a lot for hanging out with me again tonight. It's 25 after 12 here now. So we'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks.